Hey guys, welcome to the second part of the Lord of the Rings Iceberg. Hope you guys enjoyed the first one, and if you haven't already seen it, just click down in the link below and you guys can watch it. But otherwise, everyone else here that's been waiting for the second part, I am so sorry for the delay. But without further ado, one of the greatest movies of all time, of course, Lord of the Rings, here we have the iceberg. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about the second level, the extended level. And I hope you guys all enjoy. The first video goes over a few aspects of some of the more mainstream things. This one has a little bit more common knowledge things, but also doesn't. But I hope as it goes deeper, I have some more obscure little facts, theories, and personal ideas about the movie, and that you will get to see more. Part 3 soon come. First things first, we got Elves at Helm's Deep. Now, I know everyone loves this scene from Helm's Deep and the second movie, The Two Towers, but in actuality, in the books, the elves don't show up at Helm's Deep. This is a change made by Peter Jackson to keep to the spirit of the books, instilling a hope to the viewers that there is a chance of victory even in a time of doom, with the numbers being so few. You know, it's a very desperate part of the plot where you see, you know, farm boys and young men and old men all getting ready to fight that have no experience. And so when you see these battle-hardened elves showing up with their bows and in such tight formation and so disciplined, it's really exciting. I think it was an amazing change because you get to see a unity between the men and elves that's like on the level of like what it was in times of old. It makes the fight scenes a lot much more hype because, you know, the elves are fighting with such a ferocity, you know, the way they're manning the deeping wall with Aragorn. I think it just made for a much better scene. So I was pretty hyped about the fact that they did that. I think it was a really good change on Peter Jackson's part. Gollum only being a voice. Well, here's the hiring process for what Gollum went through for the voice of Smeagol.
Right, this weird voice.
My cats at home had a big impact on how Gollum's voice came about because they get furballs in their throats after they lick, so that that then became Gollum.
He was almost cast from the second that we met him. And what was interesting is that in order to create the voice, he was having to distort himself and put all this expression in his face, and that's where he was finding the voice. He was actually doing the character.
Taking off us! It hurts us!
Don't listen to him, Fred. He's trying to trick us.
I swear I have to do what he wants. Please. It hurts.
There's no promise you can make that I can trust.
Smeagol, we swear.
And it was really in that audition that I came to realise something that it never really occurred to me, and that the voice and the facial expressions and the energy are related. I mean, you can't separate the two.
Peter became convinced that he would use him not just to do the voice, but really to become the personality. The motivating, kind of unifying performance behind Gollum would come from Andy.
Boromir greaves. Now technically these aren't greaves or van braces, but that's my bad. A testament to the love and bond between Aragorn that he had for Boromir was that after the death scene of Boromir, Aragorn is taking up his van braces on his wrists, the one that have the sigil of the Minas Tirith, the white tree of Gondor. And I think it's a really small detail, but it's one that's so poignant because in every movie and scene, Aragorn is always wearing them. You see him in Helm's Deep when he's getting ready, and he's also wearing them during the Battle of Pelennor Fields in the third movie. And it's not something like very obvious where you see him taking the van braces off of Boromir's body like while his corpse is just laying there. But after the Battle of Amon Hen in the next scene where Legolas is with the boats, you can see him adjusting the braces. So it's kind of like if you know, you know kind of thing. And I just think it's a really cool thing that they have that continuity and they just show that there's like this brotherly bond between Boromir and Aragorn even after, you know, Boromir almost goes bad. I think it's a really good touch on the movie's part. cameo from the kids. I know I talked about some of the cameos from the last movie, but there's some in this one that I want to cover as well. You have the cameos from Philippa Boyen's son, who plays Hallet. And then if you also look, Aragorn's son is standing beside Hallet. And then you also have Peter's kids in all three movies. They're the kids in front of Bilbo hearing the story about the trolls. They're in the glittering caves, being scared. And when Faramir goes on the death charge to Osgiliath, they're seen there as well. You can also see Sean Astin's daughter playing his daughter in The Return of the King right at the end when Samwise Gamgee is like narrating the end. So I think it's cool that they involved their kids in the shoot and they had them throw. Gothmog and Lurtz. These are two characters that make up some of the more minor villains. They're not like super main, they're kind of like side bosses, I guess you can say. And in Fellowship and Return of the King, they're played by the same actor that I feel like should get the praise because they're two very amazing characters. Lurtz from the first movie, he has this final duel with Aragorn that I think is really epic. And then Gothmog is just like this really gross and grotesque character. And the guy who plays him is a stuntman / actor named Lawrence McCorray. He's a Maori actor based out of New Zealand. And I think that was a really great performance he did because he had that huge amount of prosthetics on his face and he had to still talk through it. And I think he did a pretty great job. This is a popular piece of trivia, but the knife that Lurtz throws at Aragorn was a real knife that Aragorn had to bat away. And I think it's really cool because it's something that could have done some serious damage, but it wasn't like something that the actors were like super scared about that you hear about. I think that the fact that it's become this piece of lore where Aragorn really was like in a serious situation of injury by batting away this knife shows just another moment of Aragorn and injury being a possibility on the set, or as you know from the first video, is a possibility on the set of Lord of the Rings. Shelob being Peter's fear. Well, in short, Peter's fear of spiders was the creation of Shelob, as seen in this clip from the appendices.
Pete's an arachnophobe, so Shelob became the spiders he hates the most.
One spider in particular that used to terrorize me, or still does, but particularly when I was a kid, I used to go under my parents' house and dig in the ground under the basement, and I used to make little roads for my corgi toys. And was when I was 5 or 6 years old. And there's a spider that lives in those sorts of basements in New Zealand called a tunnel web. And it like lives in little holes, and it loves rotten wood, and it has these very thick webs. And sometimes you dig around and you come in across a nest of one. And I remember under my parents' house, it used to terrify me. I always loved playing there, but I was terrified of coming across the tunnel webs.
And he wanted Shelob to resemble this spider.
Frodo's big, beautiful eyes. Here is the cast talking about that.
He's reputed to be one of the world's great staring contest champions.
I guess I do have a strong ability to stare.
He's got these big, beautiful eyes, but he can't see 2 feet in front of him in broad daylight.
The great irony of Elijah is he has the biggest, bluest eyes in the world, actually, and they don't work very well.
Well, my theory was that when he was a baby, because obviously you can't test a baby for how bad their eyes are, for the first couple of years he was just like this, trying to focus on everything and bring his world into view, that it just stayed like that, So as he grew up, his eyes just stayed at this constant state of surprisement,
What do I do now? What do I do?
Legolas on the snow. During the scene at Caradhras, if you notice, Legolas does not sink into the snow. He's literally like walking on top of it, like it's not affecting him. And this is because elves are extremely light and they don't have the same type of body mass the way men do, I guess. I don't know what the physical attributes to that is, but Apparently, elves do not sink, and the way they made that happen was they built a smaller ramp on the side and had Legolas walking on there to give that effect that Legolas is unaffected by the snow and he's not sinking into it the way Gandalf and the others are. I think that's kind of cool and badass of elves to be able to have that kind of ability. The amazing Helm's Deep Gate, which is almost unbreakable, as according to some of the creators of the gate and director of the movie.
We built a battering ram for Helm's Deep, and normally you think, okay, you're going to have a battering ram in a movie, it's going to be a movie prop, you probably send 2 guys to pick this thing up, but just to transport it out to Dry Creek Quarry where we were filming was a major undertaking. This thing was a real battering ram.
The battering ram was really heavy. They would tell us when we first started to do the battering ram with the door that, okay, I want you to try and smash this door down. It's not reinforced at all. I want you to just run back and run towards the thing and throw the battering ram at the door. John Mahaffey would say, "You guys are pussies, man. You hit like elves." And we're like, right. And we went to smash that door down. Nothing would happen. So we take it back and bang, nothing. Still, he's like, "Come on, what are you? Iron or something?" Bang. And we tried and tried and tried. We were like, oh, damn, this thing won't even move. They wouldn't even put holes in the door.
Somebody else in the art department decided, God, I mean, my door that I'm building has to stand up against that thing. God, I better make this pretty strong. But of course, they overbuilt it.
Son of a beep, 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 beep. Would you believe it?
It was interesting because, God, if we were defending a castle, I'd want our art department building our front door because they did a hell of a good job.
Infamous Eomer sword. As you guys might all be aware, the sword falls out in the final cut while Eomer is on his horse. Though it's never really said why that's there in the final cut and why they kept it. My theory is that because when they did this scene, the horses were very hard to control and have in a formation. And when Peter did this, he did it all in one shot. He had cameras up close, cameras from the far end, and he had cameras all around. And to get this shot, they probably got in one go, and it was like perfect because the horses were being compliant and everything was working out, and they just had to go with what they got because otherwise it was just going to be too hard to reshoot and deal with the horses again and again. That's my theory. It's never been confirmed, but I think that's probably what happened. Horses and CGI. So most of the horses on Pelennor Fields are obviously going to be CGI, but it's very dangerous on the field because of potential potholes for the horses. Because if the horses got their hooves stuck in one of the holes, they could trip and, hurt themselves really badly, and especially the rider. So they had to be filled in. And if you can see the difference between the real horse and CGI, you see how some of the horses are being shot down by the arrows and tripping and falling. Well, in one of the commentaries that they they do make mention that one of the horses really did fall because of a pothole, and they use that scene and that imagery of the horse falling in The Return of the King. I've tried to find the exact horse, but it's so hard because there's so many falling at the same time that they kind of all blend in. But according to the commentaries, that did happen. Massive. Now, this was a software that Peter had got made, and you'll hear more about it, but I think it's like a big reason why these movies got made, and I definitely think it's something that we should give credit to, because without it, this movie was probably never going to be able to get made on that scale to show some of the most epic battles.
Peter actually went back and hired a programmer who he's worked with over the years, Stephen Regulus, who actually wrote this program we call Massive to create this massive army in the prologue.
There's artificial intelligence, which is basically an attempt at emulating the processes of a human mind. But there's also artificial life, which is really more of an inspiration for Massive, which is using natural processes to create lifelike results. In Massive, we try to achieve natural crowd-like behavior, not by controlling a whole crowd. but by creating one agent who will react naturally to his environment. We call them agents because it's a common term in artificial intelligence for a decision-making unit. Then when we put thousands of them together, they will give us an emergent crowd behaviour that is also natural, without us having to say how the crowd has to behave.
So Viggo's first scene is a very infamous one because anyone who's seen the movie and knows some of the more extended lore knows that Viggo was cast late, and because of that he had no time to train or get into character like the rest of them. So when he came onto set, he was thrusted right into the role, right into the fire instantly. And the first scene he ever did was Weathertop and fighting the Nazgul. I mean, pretty epic for like your first day on the job. But I think he did it really well because in the final cut of the movie, that scene's super epic. And you just feel like, you know, Viggo is here, Aragorn is here, everything's about to go hella well. This is just more proof that Christopher Lee is, in fact, a GOAT.
You ought to see me with a 357 Magnum. I'm awesome.
When Wormtongue rises up and comes up behind Saruman to stab him, of course it was my job as director to talk to Christopher Lee and to explain to him what I wanted. So I started to go into this long explanation about what sort of sound he should make when he got stabbed.
I seem to recall that I did say to Peter, have you any idea of what kind of noise happens when somebody is stabbed in the back? And I said, well, because I do.
Oh, yeah. You see, it's not,
I like that. It's because the breath is driven out of your body.
He proceeded to sort of talk about some very clandestine part of World War II.
He used to be in the British Secret Service, whatever they were called, the OSS.
He seemed to have expert knowledge of exactly the sort of noise that they make, and so I just sort of didn't push the subject any further. I just said, well, you obviously know what to do, Christopher, so I'm sure you'll do it great, and he did.
Hope you guys enjoyed that video. Part 3 will be coming out soon. I'll be more consistent with some of the content. I have some more music type style videos, you know, about hip hop, about other shows, about anime, other movies, more Lord of the Rings icebergs, other type of icebergs and stuff that I relate to. So if you guys just want like a broad, diverse type of channel with different types of things to pop into, like some of the podcasts I do and things like that, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, and see you soon.